One of the things we need to tell you about blurts is that they get more subtle. Before, when we were first doing this work and we were sitting in these coffee shops and come up with these exercises, and we did the blurts for ourselves, mine said bullshit, of course, and sort of the version of yeah, you're right, and all that. But then it gets to the point where I wrote a couple of screenplays, and so it gets more subtle by saying, but they haven't sold. Then I wrote a book, but it's non-fiction. Okay? Right? So it'll keep progressing with you and getting more and more subtle. And what you need to know is if you begin to identify it, then you can just listen to it and it won't stop you from moving forward.
How many of you have at least one friend who can be depended on to trash any idea? This is your censor. This is what your censor is like. You know, this is the friend who, when you say, 6 of you agree that it would be really fun to see movie A, this friend says, I'm not going to like it, it's stupid, let's go to movie B, and then you spend the whole evening trying to find some other film that you can all agree on. This is how your censor functions. You get an idea, and your censor starts to say to you, look, you put the guitar down when you were 18. You're not going to be able to find a guitar. Going to pawn shops is stupid, and besides, imagine how heartbroken so-and-so will be when he gets back and his guitar is missing, right? And you write this long, compassionate scenario about some other blocked musician who is happily snorting heroin at this very moment. And you, meanwhile, are not letting yourself get the guitar, are not letting yourself take any baby steps at all, because your censor has told you it's a risky thing to do.
And here's a subtle way the censor works. We want to play guitar, so who do we go listen to? The world's finest guitarists who have been, when we go hear Andre Segovia play, we play his CD 40 times a week, and we wonder, why am I uninspired to learn EAD on the guitar? Why I take my first monologue class because I want to be an actor, and who do I go compare myself to? Well, now I'm watching Costner. I'm watching all these people that got paid $8 million to do this thing after 20 years. I mean, if you want to, and this is where you can break the censor down. You go rent Fandango, Costner's very first film. You go watch Scorsese's first film, where it's a student film where some guy slices his own throat in a mirror. You go watch the local theater group who are in the community theater. This is, we're talking about raising the jumps, and just gradually we're going to go see what's happening that's a step ahead of where I am. That's the key.
One of the things that was fun for me when I was teaching in Chicago was that I said to the other faculty, let's show them our shitty films. And they said, they won't respect us if they see our shitty films. And I said, right. They'll realize that they can make shitty films too, and we all make gradually better films. Well, the faculty would not wouldn't commit to showing it. So what happened is we called up a lot of famous filmmakers and said, send us your shitty films. And they did. And I mean, you know, when you look at Star Wars, for example, at least for me, there are sections there where it's just, stuff is totally magic, and you go, how could they do this technology? However, when you look at George Lucas's early films, you think, George, accounting. You know?
And Star Wars was turned down 21 times, by the way.
You know, maybe if you have a gentle eye, you see something there. But we don't ever look at the beginning work. We look at the master work. We look at the work where they've had all the help of all the helpers. Enough.
Okay. Number from 1 to 20, please. We're going to do something different. Number from 1 to 5, or you can use the list you have. 5 other lives. If you had 5 other lives, what would you be? If you had 5 other lives, 5 things you could be, 5...
Torch singer.
Astronaut.
Tantric sex.
What did you say last night about that, by the way?
I said it was the same as trick roping.
We
Right,
really
so
never know
5
what's
other
going to go
lives.
on up here.
Okay, then from 5 to 10, please list 5 skills you don't have yet that it would be fun to have. This is where tantric sex and trick roping and bungee jumping all came up last night. I maintained they were the same.
5 skills that it would be fun to have.
So first 5 lives, then 5 skills. Now 5 classes it would be fun to take, even if you have no intention of taking them. You know, flying lessons. 5 classes it would be fun to take.
5 things you would do if you didn't have to do it perfectly. Tantric sex. 5 things you would do if you didn't have to do it perfectly. If I didn't have to do it perfectly, I would blank.
We would like you to break into clusters of 4. We don't want you to sit with anyone you know. We want you to share with each other. And here's how we would like you to do it. We would like you to share, each of you, a monster. And enough of the story that people get the drift. Don't just say, I was trashed by my art teacher. Gory details. Okay? So first you go around and you do all 3 of your monsters. Then you do your champions. Then you talk about your families. In my family, artists were considered da-da-da-da-da.
The reason that we ask for your fears, that it's very important to us that that safety is the key for the first night of the course. Any of you who know the book, every week has a theme. The first night is safety. That we're dealing with people's dreams. That's why we have anger thrown at us, because people don't like to deal with their dreams. It scares them. You never have to share anything in any of our workshops that you're not comfortable sharing. You can just skip it over, okay? But the main thing that we want you to know is that this work is sacred to us. It's a sacred trust that we take very seriously. So you can just go ahead and share what you need to share and what you're comfortable to share. And let's take 15 minutes or so and see if we can get through it all.
Okay, Mark and I are going to respond to questions for a little bit. And I hope that then we're going to play some more, so don't worry about it. We're going to try and do this for only 10 or 15 minutes. But it's sometimes good to know that we do at least try to answer some of these. All right, sweetheart. Sexist again. I called you
Sweetheart. I'm just
Sweetheart.
a piece of meat. It's ridiculous.
Questions.
I'm a member of multiple 12-step fellowships. Any suggestions about how to balance creativity with recovery programs, working a straight job, full or part-time, nurturing a primary relationship? God, how lucky you have a primary relationship. Congratulations. And doing the laundry. Just do the morning pages in an artist date. The rest will follow, I think.
Could we see the hands of people who have no idea what the morning pages are? Okay, we're going to briefly explain these. Those of you who know perfectly well what they are, this is the lightning fast explanation. They are also explained ad nauseum until you are terminally sick of them in that book called The Artist's Way. Morning pages are 3 pages of longhand morning writing. Yes, they have to be done longhand. Yes, they have to be done in the morning. They are not art. They are not planned. They are not journaling. Yes, it's okay to write your dreams. That's your morning. Okay, the question was, what if you don't get up until midday? Well, the answer was that's your morning. You do them when you wake up. Then there's the heart-rending case where somebody raises their hand and says, "But Julia, I already get up at 4 o'clock in the morning." I say, "Tough, you're used to it." You know, it's a little bit like good cop, bad cop. Mark cuts people a few more. That's why you should take it with him. He cuts people better deals.
Well, you can do them at lunch, but you can't tell me.
But the reason that you do them first thing in the morning is we're trying to catch you as close as we can to your unconscious. How many of you have ever slept with a lark? You know, one of those people who wakes up and is there in the morning? Okay, morning pages will work for larks, but they work even better for the non-lark kind of person. So if when you get up in the morning your brain is doing something like, "The curtains are dirty, why did I never notice this room needs to get painted? I didn't call my brother back. God, do I have a resentment at my sister. I cannot believe it. My hair is dirty. I don't have time to wash it." If this is what your brain is doing in the morning, this is what goes on morning pages. The people who meditate may know these things as cloud thoughts. They don't have to make sense to you. I cannot prove that they work, but we could ask collectively, how many people here are doing them? Okay, how many people think it's a great Western way to meditate and that it does work? Okay, so judge more from your peers than from us. We better explain what an artist state is. Will you quickly do that?
Okay, an artist state is a block of time that you plan each week in which you experience some sensate trip into yourself, I guess, if I had to put it in blunt terms, by yourself.
I would have said it's something fun that you plan ahead of time.
Okay, something fun you plan ahead of time.
I just want to say I was so jealous before. He was sounding so you know, we started this evening. I got to briefly be the star. I say I hate being a guru, but, you know, who believes that? I did wear 2 separate dresses. I told Mark that if it went badly, I would just take off the first dress in the middle.
And several cards have asked about the dresses. They're from Bluefish in Taos.
Yeah, the important question is, who did the dress?
Okay. And this one says, also, must it be done in solitude? They're talking about the morning pages. And it goes on to say, I am rarely alone. Well, I guess lucky you. We used to just joke and say, well, then write them on your lover's back, you know, while they're sleeping. But
one of the things that often happens when we teach a large group is that about 3 or 4 weeks in, first of all, people start to look physically different, and we joke around about how we should do Polaroids, except you saw the hostility when we started tonight. Imagine if you're signing up for 12 weeks, people show up snarling, and then you say, now just smile while I take this Polaroid of you. But people do lighten up, and 3 or 4 weeks in, we typically have a sort of shadow cluster of new lovers. And I remember this one guy who was like doing great with his morning pages, and then he was also the number 2 man at the Board of Trade in Chicago. So he comes into to class, he's been doing perfectly on his morning pages, and suddenly he has no morning pages, right? And this guy has no excuse, right? Everybody works for him, except he's just started sleeping with this new girl, right? And he can't tell her that he does these morning pages. He cannot figure out how to tell this young woman, excuse me, I do this thing in the morning, you know? He like doesn't want to be square or old or, you know, it was great. She ended up doing morning pages. At any rate, I was going to say that before, you know, I got so jealous because Mark was saying all the articulate things, and I was just like totally petty. It was like he's quoting all of the research. I get to say things like shitty movies. How do I stay with the program? I did the 12-week program, and now it is gradually slipping away. Okay, I say get in a cluster. I don't think that there's a way to keep yourself individually motivated forever, and if we had known more when we did the book, we would have strengthened the cluster chapter then, and we're meeting with the publisher tomorrow to see if we can insert more about doing clusters. So build yourself a cluster. If you did it by yourself, find a bunch of people and do it again.
This is a question. Can we do group ohms? Thank you.
Yes. We did them last night. They hated it. I don't care.
Could you find another way of discussing the concept without using the word God? I've had trouble with it in the book.
There is a section in the book that says, do not let semantics be a block for you. I would like to amend that. Oh, let it be a block.
Do you know the joke about the dyslexic insomniac agnostic who stayed up all night wondering if there was a dog? So I'll answer that question. It's a Zen cone.
Also, I think maybe people, I have a very bad temper. This is one of the reasons we're divorced. But I get very annoyed that I will say something very clearly, or to my mind very clearly. The concept of God that I used that worked for me was a line from Dylan Thomas, the force that through the green fuse drives the flower. All right, I was not capable of, I had been raised Catholic. I did not want to believe in anything bearded. I wanted nothing that could have my address. I didn't want to be accountable. I didn't want a father confessor. The only thing that I trusted was whatever held the stars in proper proportion to each other and whatever juice it was that made art. That was the only thing that I could trust, was this life force, whatever it was. And I have had people tell me I have written a born-again book. I have had people tell me I have written a Christian book. I have had people tell me it is a New Age book. I'm sick of having people tell me what kind of God they think I believe in. I was very clear, I think, and besides, it's always changing. So I think that when people get chicken about using God, or as loosely as the book uses it, they're just looking for a way to disqualify the teacher. And we disqualify the teacher whenever we don't want to learn the lesson. Sorry.
Here's a question. What am I doing here? What am I doing here, or what are you doing?
Regarding morning pages, mine are turning into a daily diary. I feel they should be stream of consciousness, random thoughts, insights, questions, etc. Which is right or neither? I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? There have been periods where my morning pages have been kind of cohesive. There have been periods where they have been much more fragmented. I don't think it matters. I think all that matters is that you do them.
Oh, here's another good one. When are you going to get rid of Mark? Are you keeping him just so you can keep being an artist?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Can't you guys slow down and shut up so we can answer and write? Why aren't we talking about God or spirituality more? Okay. Because everybody comes to their own sense of that.
What now they want more God.
More
they
God.
wanted less God a minute ago. Oh,
Can
God,
you do the morning
you guys.
pages using a computer, or do you need to write it down on paper? On paper, on paper, on paper, on paper, on paper.
And if
Tactile.
you want, you can ask Mark about the research that has been done, which proves that if you write longhand instead of getting carpal, you know what I mean, it works. For some reason, writing longhand activates your brain hemispheres differently. There is lots of research which proves this, or you could just do it.
What? Yeah. We don't spend a lot of time on why. What happens when you get what you want and it doesn't meet your expectations? It's never going to meet your expectations.
However, sometimes we are absolutely right about what we want, and it's fun.
That's right.
You know,
It's a lot more fun than not getting anything you want.
I wanted to move to Taos, New Mexico for 15 years. I like it there. You know, could you please go a little slower? This is feeling wild and disorganized to me.
Yes. How can I decide if I should study graphic design, I have such a background, or finish my degree in business to enhance my paying job? Work the book. It's an answer we couldn't give you. It's an individual answer.
What happens if you miss morning pages and end up doing them faithfully at other times in the day? Can you comment? Well, again, the object of morning pages is to try and catch yourself as close to your unconscious as you can. It's better to do them later in the day than not to do them at all, but you're kind of cheating yourself.
So you two, Mark and Julia, are partners. How long, please, and how did you meet? So this is like, what's that dating game they have? Do they still have that dating game? Well, Chuck, we were...
Dominica, who is my daughter, Mark's stepdaughter, and we never have felt it necessary to make her an ex-stepdaughter just because we got divorced, came over and said, well, yeah, we were really married.
We were really married.
Really
in a
divorced.
church and everything, you know, there was people there and presents.
No, we've been married, we've been divorced, we've been everything practically. At any rate, Dominica came over to me. Mark was playing pool. He had a very young, extremely attractive, not that I'm petty, younger than my daughter, blonde with him. And Dominica came over and said, I think there's someone you would like to meet. This is also how she helps me buy horses, by the way. She was right.
See, I told you, just a total sex object. What's on your dress? What does it say? I don't even know what's on the dress. The other dress.
God knows what's on the other dress, and so does Jodine Tipton, who makes the dresses. She's listed in Taos, New Mexico. Yes, they can be ordered. You can get her to do whatever sounds fun. They're handmade, they're silk, they're washable, and they're like pajamas.
Does the struggle to create have to always feel so lonely?
No.
However, I will have to say, one of the things we have to do is learn to stay in the discomfort a little sometimes. That there is times when that blank page really looks pretty intimidating, and there are times when that blank canvas or that audition really looks intimidating. And one of the things the exercises help us do is just to walk through that feeling or stay still long enough. How many people have been involved in a piece of work? Just one second. And suddenly I have to go call Debbie, or I have to check and see if he really loves me. Anybody? Where you're right in the middle of writing something and you go, oh my God, I got to see if he really loves me, so I'm going to call him. Or you go graze in the refrigerator, oh well, I got to get that food, that exact thing, and then I got to make this exact dosage of caffeine. Those are things in which we're getting out of the discomfort. And one of the things the tools will help you do is just to learn to sit and listen.
Because they're non-negotiable, you begin to learn that your mood doesn't matter. Okay? One of the things you find when you write something that's really long is that the days that you think you're brilliant and the days that you think you're stupid, over time it evens out and the work looks sort of the same. And that some of my most brilliant work has been the days when I thought I was the most stupid, and vice versa. So morning pages are non-negotiable. You just do them.
How many people feel morning pages somehow magically arrange your day for you, of the people who do them? Like, I'm not really writing about the stuff I have to do today, but it comes to be about 7 o'clock at night and I realize I showed up magically to everything I was supposed to do.
How many
Is that
people,
a common occurrence for you guys? Yeah?
How many
Okay.
people have had the experience of increased synchronicity like crazy from the morning pages? Okay,
you
how
look
many
around, at
people
least
have
most
read
of
the
us.
Celestine Prophecy? Did you have the weird feeling that it was like the fictionalized version of The Artist's Way? I read it and I went, this is really strange. This is really fun.
Can I ask a quick question? Because you keep talking about how the morning pages are like meditation. Well, what if you already do like transcendental meditation?
Do your MPs first, or your morning pages first, and then
what?
yeah, because we want you to write down your cloud thoughts, okay?
First, and then...
Right, and then go have more of them.
Okay, I am sorry, but why do we have to talk about our lists with others? It seems not affirming but defeating to listen to deflated dreams. 2 reasons. One is that they lose their power over us when we've shared them with somebody. And the other is that we get to hear someone else's story, and ours is not always the worst. So we get affirmed in the sense that... And third, I guess, is that we're just damned brave. Every one of you came here tonight. That's a brave enough step as it is to go talk about my dreams, to go talk about what I'd really like to do in my life, to go... That's a very big step. And then to be able to sit down and answer these questions and sit in a group with strangers. I mean, if you have that kind of courage, you certainly have the courage to show up and do an audition or write your book or take a music lesson.
I want to say something else about that. I believe that we are taught that creativity and creative dreams are smutty little secrets. I believe that we are so shamed around our creativity, and this is something that we're going to answer questions for a little bit, and then I think we're going to, I at least, would like to do some of those questions about have you ever been shamed. In other words, we'll end the evening on a deep, painful note. I believe that a lot of times when you articulate a creative dream as a little kid, you're made to feel very foolish and like it's just your ego. And so when we have a creative blow as an adult, we don't grieve it, we don't mourn it, we tell ourselves it shouldn't matter that much, and it remains our secret. And so I remember it was 1978, I wrote an article for New West magazine, and I got a letter from this guy who said, you may not remember me. I did remember him. I had gone to Georgetown with him. We went out for dinner. He was a lawyer, and I kept thinking, I never have fun with lawyers. Why am I having fun with this lawyer? Finally, after our, renewing a friendship and having dinner a few times, he told me that he had written a novel, and he had paid an agent to read it, and the agent had taken the $100 and responded, this book is half good, half bad. I don't know what to do with it. It's the hardest thing to kind of fix. He hadn't written another word in 7 years. His contacting me was a desperate plea for help. He became the very first of the students that I started unblocking. He was the first person I ever worked with consciously to unblock. He's one of the people that's mentioned in the dedication. And for 7 years, that novel had just sat in a bottom drawer, and he never told anybody about the shame of getting that letter. He never told anybody that he had had the nerve to think he could write a novel and could tell a story. This is why we're telling each other this, because we've been shamed about our creativity. We've been taught it's wrong and it's dirty and we aren't supposed to do it, and we have incredible grief and pain and shame. And I think if we think we don't, we still have a certain kind of loneliness, and it's loneliness like in Mark's favorite movie, Orphans. You know how an orphan is both defiant and alone and desperately wants to come home? I believe we have missed our tribe all these years, and now our tribe is coming home, and that's why this book is successful. It's our tribe, it's our turn. We're saying it's us.
I've been writing in my journal for 20 years. Why are morning pages any different? I'm still stuck. Because the journal is usually structured, We're going to show it to somebody someday. May Sarton. They're going to, a Journal of Solitude. And the morning pages are specifically made not to be art. If you happen to get song lyrics or a poem or a short story, great. But they're not meant to do that. Can you explain raising the jumps a little more? What we mean by raising the jumps is if I go out and I try and audition for a part, I did this actually once. My brother was doing movies in Chicago as like an actor, and he just started walking onto sets and carrying lights and whatever, and soon he had a SAG card and he was doing these things. So he said, Mark, come down here, and go, we're going to do an audition for a Miller beer commercial. So I went down, I walked, and there was this line of the most handsome people in the world doing this Miller beer commercial, and I was terrible, and I never wanted to ever touch anything to do with acting again, because I tried to go over too high a jump. I'd never even done a monologue. So the idea of keeping our jump small is just seeing what's the next step in front of us and building the books.
Original Toyota commercial right now.
Right, thanks. But the point of it is that if we build it slowly, all of these tools are very practically oriented. And if we go and learn to do the jump, next right thing, so to speak, we'll build to that confidence level, we'll build to that expertise. That'll get us the stuff we want to get done. That's just the way it works.